I have lost count of the amount of times that people have said, why do you have so many journals? And why do you need another journal? And they're not wrong. I have a lot. So it's a very valid question. So today I thought we'd maybe take a closer look at why so many journals and why each and every single one of them does hold a purpose for me. So let's get into it. So one of the reasons that I have so many journals is a practical reason. I'm normally working in more than one journal simultaneously. So for example, if I'm working with watercolour or texture paste, something that needs time to dry, that will be drying at one point in my studio and I'll be working on another journal page. Now, I do appreciate that that maybe doesn't quite justify the amount of journals I have. Let's say 4 or 5 at the max would be involved in that. But that's where I would maybe use an illustration of wearing clothes. Technically, we only need 2 outfits, one to wear and one to have in the wash. However, we do tend to have more than that. Some for practical purposes, some different outfits are for different jobs, different occasions, like for example, going gardening. Some we have summer weather, we have winter weather, so different clothing does different jobs. Also, clothing can reflect our mood or how we're feeling, the occasion, lots of different things like that. So I very much feel journals are like that. They have their practical uses, but they also help to fill whatever creative mood that you are in at any given time. So leaning into that illustration that we talked about is that we have different clothes for different reasons. Most of us have a standard go-to outfit, whether that be jeans and a t-shirt or jeans and top, pretty much what I'm sort of wearing here. So it's the bog standard, what you put on every single day. It's practical, it's comfortable, and there's lots of reasons why you choose that. For me, in journal form, that is my Pink Pig A5 journal. The paper is really good. It's a very bog standard watercolour paper. It's not overly expensive and I like the size. I like the A5 size. So I tend to find this is the one that I reach for the most. And you can tell that I have 6 of these journals completed. I don't have as many of the others completed. So this would probably be my go-to everyday journal that I reach for a lot. Now, I have this journal in multiple sizes. So I have it in a much smaller size. So these are handy for maybe if I'm feeling overwhelmed and I want to do something smaller. Sometimes maybe it's at the end of the day and I've got little bits and bobs left over on my desk, and rather than tidy them away, I tend to craft them away instead. So just like a couple of bits and bobs into a smaller journal, and you can make a really pretty page. So it's like, you can see that I've done that. And these were just like leftovers on my desk. This size is also really good for traveling. So if I was going on holiday or a weekend away and wanted to work in my journal, that something like this is really easy to put in my handbag and I don't have to worry about it. Sometimes I have a project that is bigger in size and it needs more space. So then I have ones like this. This is the 11 by 11 version. So whilst I pull out this one the most, the others do get regular use as well because different sizes fit different frames of mind. Okay, so this journal here, this is my Sidekick journal and it is probably one of the most important journals that I have. This is my completely 100% no pressure journal. So this one is, if I call it my warm-up journal. Quite often when you look at people who do sports and things like that, they will do a warm-up first and then they get into the game. And this is what this journal's about. There's not any completed pages in this. Because basically that's not the point. I kind of maybe try out a new product and scribble on lots of different pages. I mop up, but there's no pressure to create a completed page. I just sort of slap paint around, have a play, and quite often from doing something in here, I then move on and start working in one of my other journals. So as I said, this one, that is its purpose, for completely 100% no pressure play. And so this is one of the most important journals that I own. So the next type of journal I absolutely love are ones like this. This journal is lush. This is definitely probably one of my more luxury items, and it has beautiful handmade paper. In fact, this journal reached my top 5 for 2025 when I did a review at the end of last year. It's beautiful handmade paper and it is just gorgeous. Now, I really enjoy working in this. It's a little bit different. And it does have that sort of more luxurious feel. I do, however, also have art journals with handmade paper in different sizes. So I've got a lovely square one. This is like the caddy one. I like that. So sometimes compositionally, I want a square rather than a rectangle. And sometimes I can feel a little bit overwhelmed by a full A4 page, and that's when a little one like this comes in. But these are absolutely gorgeous and I love them. Another style of journal that I love to have in my stash is like a ring binder style. So we've got different ones here, one with like a hoop like that, and one that actually has like the ring binder mechanism inside it. Now, the reason I love this is I love creating with texture. So sometimes I like to put texture paste on, die cuts, and maybe do a collage, but that can then make the paper sort of lumpy bumpy, so that when you go on to the next page, it's very difficult to get an even stamp, for example, because there's so much kind of unevenness underneath. Whereas with a journal like this, you can take the page out and work on the page individually. So that is really good because I love creating with texture and I don't have to worry about it too much and what it will do to future pages when I work in a journal like this. The other thing I love about working in a journal like that is that you can add different substrates in. So for example, in this one here, I have a page that I created using fabric. So this is a piece of felt, and I have kind of created a scene and stitched various fabric elements on it. I had so much fun doing that. I loved crafting with my sewing machine. However, that's not something I do a lot. I love my sewing machine, but I don't pull it out quite a lot. I'm definitely more of a paper crafter than a fabric crafter. But I really enjoyed doing that in that moment. So if I had a journal full of just fabric or a fabric journal, I'd probably barely use it. Whereas a journal that's kind of got some sort of mechanism that allows you to take pages out and put pages in gives you a lot more freedom of what you can use as well. So that's why ring binder style journals like this are an essential part of my journal ecosystem. Another thing that I love creating journal pages on is repurposed books. So this is a gorgeous vintage book that I have got and turned into an art journal. We've got some gorgeous pages in here, and I love working on that. There's something about the fact it's old, it has a history, it has a story, it's quite nostalgic working in it. And I feel like my art is adding to the story and the history of this book. I love something about like the vintage papers, the fact that they're quite stained. And so sometimes if I'm feeling really nostalgic or in a storytelling mood, this is the book I like to use. And also the pages, a bit like with a handmade journal, the pages are so delicate, like the handmade paper. So it's just a different feel and a different vibe. So I really love using altered books like that and sort of bringing new life to them. The other thing is this is another book that I created. Well, I didn't create the book, but I turned into a journal. Now, this is one of my favourite childhood stories. It also reminds me of my grandfather. So sometimes, again, if I'm in a nostalgic sort of mood, or I'm particularly thinking about my granddad or family or connections like that, this would be the journal that I would go for. And it sort of expands that mood that I'm in, and it sort of feeds that mood and feeds the creative direction that I'm in that particular day. And so like I really love using an altered book for a journal. Another thing that I do a lot, and we've done on this channel quite a lot, is turn old planners into art journal. Now I love this because planners have a shelf life. We buy them, they are functional for a year, and then they go on the shelf and we don't really use them. Sometimes we might keep them if we're planner girls and we get nice pretty ones like that with gorgeous papers. We might kind of keep them, but to be honest, they're kind of obsolete. And so I really like the idea of like the reduce, reuse, recycle. We have it. It creates nice, interesting backgrounds because we've got the diary pages and bits and bobs on there. And I think that is a really fun thing to play with. And I think you guys really enjoy this too, because the most popular videos on this channel are normally me turning planners into art journals. The other advantage of that is this little one here. This one is from 2012, and actually that was the year that my daughter was born. And so as I'm creating little art journal pages here, it's like I open the diary and there's an appointment to the midwife, or the day she was born, or little trips that we did in the first year of her life. And that's all in here, and now I'm turning these pages into art, so it's kind of encapsulating those memories. And again, just the fact that that is a little bit different, it just takes my creativity in a different direction. And that's why I have different things. That's why I have, you know, journals with handmade papers, journals that are books, journals that are planners, because each of them does a different thing and tells a different story and takes my creativity into a different direction. And that's why I feel all of these are so valid and important as part of my art journal ecosystem. And last but not least, I have all of my handmade journals. Oh my goodness, I absolutely love these. I wouldn't be without these, and I find them so inspiring. Now, what's amazing about a handmade journal is that you have literally had creative input from the inception or creation of that journal right the way through to you finishing every single page. You have made it perfect for what you want. So like for this one, I have got a mixture of like old planner pages, tea stained paper, but I also have, it's not entirely a junk journal because I don't work well with a full junk journal, but I've also got mixed media paper in and things like this. This one here is all different types of papers that I love using. So we have handmade watercolor paper, we have mixed media paper, we have paper for pastels, and it's just gorgeous. And plus it's so funky, it's so unique. Nobody else is going to have a journal like this. It looks so different. This one, I love working with texture, but as we've mentioned before, sometimes that can be a little bit difficult within a journal. So I've created a texture journal. This is literally scraps of paper and packaging and just all sorts of nonsense that I have stitched together and then put in a journal. And so that is so much fun to work with. So if you don't have one, I would highly recommend make your own journal. There's just, as I said, there's just something about that creative involvement from beginning to end. It's just really fun and really exciting. And yeah, these are one of my favorite journals in my studio. So what do you think? Do you think all the journals that I have are a necessary part of my creative world? Or do you feel I should have a lot less? Let me know in the comments below. Now, occasionally, I do get journals like this one. This one featured in my recent video where I talked about items that I regret buying. There's not many journals I regret buying, but this is one of them. So I plan to tackle that so that it can become beloved like all my other art journals. I will be doing that in next week's video, so please do consider liking and subscribing and we'll find out what happens to this. If you have enjoyed this video, you may enjoy these next ones coming up just now, and I will see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.